What's going on, everybody? Yo, FYB presents Wise Word Wednesdays, a quick live stream to help you get closer to accomplishing your dreams. Right now, we are in the Huddle Up. So I'm going to just waste no time and bring right up my guests, my fellow co-hosts. We got E, we got Ant in the building. I want to say shout out to everybody that's watching, already logged in on the IG Live. I see A-Lo in the building, see Peaches in the building. So what's going on with y'all? But Ant, E, how y'all doing?
I'm
Yes,
good,
man.
man.
Beautiful
Everything's
day.
good.
Happy
Good stuff.
holidays to everybody.
Yeah, definitely. Happy holidays to everyone. If you're not already doing so, subscribe to the Wise World Wednesday YouTube channel just so that way you can see, you can post comments on there as well too. We can actually post it in there live for the show. But I know it's been a minute. So first off, before we get into the topics for tonight, I just want to know how y'all been. Like, how has y'all, you know what I'm saying, y'all been these past couple of weeks? I know we've been out and about on the move. I'll start with you, E. How you been, man?
I've been good. Everything is good, man. Same old, man. And enjoying this ravage of sports that we have going on right now.
No doubt, no doubt. And
Oh man, it's been great, man. I can't really complain. Holidays, got the two young ones, so they love this time of year. I love this time of year. Great time with sports, getting ready for this college football playoff, getting ready for the NFL. Great time.
no doubt, no doubt. Same here. Enjoying sports. I feel like this is kind of like the peak time of the year where it's like all sports. Well, actually, I guess you could technically say it was like October was like the peak time. Early November was all sports was happening all at the same time. You had baseball, you had basketball, you had football,
Mhm.
all going on at the same time. But I still feel like even though baseball season is over, I still feel like it's still a great time of the year, especially during the holidays, because you get some good food and you get some good sports. So let's just kick right into it. Man, who runs the NFC? You know what I mean? Because there's a couple teams that are out there that are looking like just dominating, right? And I think those two teams, from my opinion, are the Detroit Lions and the Philadelphia Eagles. So the question now becomes who really runs the NFC? Obviously, we saw the game on Sunday that the Philadelphia Eagles just like dominated, but we also cannot ignore the Detroit records. So I'll start with you, E. What's your take on it? Actually, no, let me start with Ant because I feel like E going you go crazy. Ant, what's your take on the subject, man?
So at the start of the year, I liked the Packers going in.
Mhm.
I just thought that they had the most complete team, top to bottom. I think they've been up and down, but they've actually had some injuries. For my money, I would probably say is those two teams that you mentioned, the Lions and the Eagles. Those are the teams that most people are looking at. I would probably go out of those two, the Eagles, but I would say that the dark horse, probably, I think the most complete team from top to bottom is probably the Packers. But they've had a couple of performances, in particular that one versus the Lions where they lost in their home field that kind of disappointed me. But that was my preseason pick. I don't think I am too swayed away from it, but you cannot deny the way the Eagles are playing. I would say that of the two teams, I would definitely pick the Eagles right now.
Okay. Uh E, man, just to give y'all, a heads up. So the Eagles are 9-2. But you also got the Lions in there with 10 wins. So tell me, man, what's your thoughts on it?
I think I'm going to kind of go with what you said. Obviously, right now, I think that it's going to be between the Lions and the Eagles. I do think the Vikings are knocking at the door with those two teams. I think the Vikings can't be left out with the kind of season that they've had. But ultimately, right now, to be honest, I'm a big Eagles fan. Everyone knows that. But I'm not going to be a homer in this point. I'm going to, really call it like I said. I think the Eagles are going to win the NFC, but at this time, right now, you would have to say that the Lions are 1A and the Eagles are 1B. Obviously, they have one loss, and I think the Lions have 3 wins that they can hang their hat on. They beat the Texans in Houston, beat the Green Bay Packers in Green Bay, beat Minnesota in Minnesota. The Eagles beat Green Bay in Brazil. The Eagles beat the Commanders at home, so those are going to be some of their better wins. So the Eagles have a tough stretch coming up here with the Ravens and the Steelers, and I think this is where they can really make their mark and claim the NFC. I think the Lions have a tough road to end the season. If you look at their schedule, they just have a lot of tough games left. They still have the Bears twice, still have the Packers, still have the Vikings. I believe they play the Bills, still have the 49ers. So they have their next 6 games are going to be tough. But right now, I would say the Eagles and the Lions are 1A, 1B, but I think the Vikings are still knocking at the door.
So my thing is, right, I do like the Packers. You know what I'm saying? I don't think they're the top of the NFC, but I do see them as a dark horse that can kind of creep in there. Possibly with, as long as Jordan Love can stop turning the ball over, I think they actually have a pretty solid team. But I think the Lions are the best team right now in the NFC. I do think that you make some good points, and as well as we were talking about this on Sunday. There are teams that the Eagles have beat handily where, the Lions kind of struggle with it. But I just think that doesn't necessarily mean that the Eagles are a better team. I just think that they played a better game against those particular, those teams. Because I personally, the Commanders are not a serious team, in my opinion. I think that they're still up and coming. They're figuring things out. I just don't see them as a serious playoff team. We know that the Eagles are going to get into the playoffs. So from the NFC East, I don't see the Washington creeping in there. I think it's gonna, but that's just my opinion. I could be wrong.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Go ahead.
You mentioned the Vikings, and I was a big Viking supporter. I just have issues with their secondary. They've lost a ton of players on the back end in their secondary. And you can see sometimes towards these ends of games, especially with the type of defense that Flores likes to call, that their back end gives a lot of big plays up down the field. So at the start of the year, I actually thought the Lions, and this was no shade on them, this was just actually the strength of the division I thought that they were going to play in. I thought they were going to finish last. I thought I had Green Bay at top, I had the Vikings second, had the Bears third, and the Lions last in the division. Not that they would have the worst record in the league.
Bears finishing better than
I was a supporter of what the Bears were doing, in particular with the offense that I thought that they were going to be able to have with Caleb Williams. That has not been the case at all, obviously. He's played a lot better as of late, but I thought that he would be someone that hit the ground running, especially with the weapons that they gave him, and it just didn't turn out that way.
No, I feel on that. Go ahead.
I definitely hear that. I think that the Vikings do have some injuries in their secondary that is going to probably be problematic down the road. But I just think that their offense and Sam Darnold, with the weapons that they have on offense, they've operated at such a high level. I'm still going to kind of take a wait and see approach, obviously, because Green Bay, they've kind of lost to the upper echelon teams in the league so far this season. They've lost to the Lions, they've lost to the Vikings, they've lost to the Eagles, barely beat the Texans. So I'm going to kind of still kind of take a wait and see approach with them and how they kind of develop towards the back end of the season, because their schedule is pretty tough at the end of the season as well. I just think that whole NFC North, they still have a gauntlet left to go. So whoever is sitting on top of the division today could very well be in third place. I don't think the Bears are going to finish higher than fourth just because they have so many losses. But between 1 and 3, the Lions could still
end up third.
It could still end up third just because of their schedule, not because they're not a good team. I just think that if you go look at their schedule right now, they still have the Bears twice, still have the Bills, still have the Packers, still have the Vikings. Those are 6 tough games, especially with how the Bears have kind of turned it around ever since they let go of Shane Waldron. Their offense has obviously looked better. So you can't just mark that off as a win.
Yeah, I don't know. I still have I got the Lions able to beat the Bears. I have them beating the Niners. I have them struggling possibly against the Packers and also struggling against the Bills. So those are the ones that I think. But I also know, like, the Bears, division games are always, a tough one. But so maybe they go 1-1. They split with the Bears. I still think they can beat the Niners. I still think they can beat the Vikings. I think the ones to kind of be iffy on is the Bills and the Packers. But and only reason why I say the Packers because it's a divisional game. You know, those are always challenging to, you know what I mean, to do that. But I don't see the Packers having too much issues going on. I mean, I'm sorry, the Lions. I'm sorry, having too many issues, you know, with this schedule going on. I see somebody in the comments, my man Bravo, my cousin Ken, he said the Lions are going to the Super Bowl and they're going to beat the Bears both times. See, I don't know for sure if they're going to the Super Bowl. I do definitely have them beating the Bears both times. I don't see that. I'll give you this though, Ant. I thought that the Bears were going to be better than what they are, but for some reason, I think Caleb Williams is trying too hard to like make plays when he just throw the ball away. I think he's trying like he's, you know, feeling like he's still in college. He's able to, you know, he at USC, he can outrun some of them defensive linemen, and you can't, bro. It don't work that way. They're gonna get to you. So I did think they were going to be better. I don't know if I was going to say they were going to be better than the Lions, but I thought they were going to be better than this. So I'll for sure give you that too.
Yeah, with Caleb Williams, the thing that's kind of surprised me is, I mean, he's kind of been like a wild horse in the pocket, you know, moving backwards, just doing all types of crazy things. But what's really surprised me is he's missed a lot of throws, especially throwing downfield. And the game that stands out in my mind is the Arizona Cardinal game. That game was there on the platter. They had tons of deep shots, one-on-one opportunities that he just missed. So hopefully, you know, he starts playing better, and, you know, I'll talk about that towards the end. But yeah, I mean, obviously it's too late for them to, you know, challenge to get up to third in the division, but who knows? We'll see. They got an interesting little stretch coming up.
No doubt.
I think the quick last little point that I'll make about the comment section, and I know people look at the records and they say, okay, the Lions are 9-1. They've beaten teams by 40 points this year, but if you just go and you look at the Bears' last two games, just specifically their last two games, they were ultra competitive in the game against the Vikings and the Bears. They were ultra competitive and they had their chances to win both games. Obviously, the Viking game, the Vikings were up 11 with a minute 30 seconds to go, and then, you know, the Bears did what they did to get the game into overtime. But prior to that, you know, through the first three quarters of the game was a back and forth game. It wasn't like the Vikings came out and just dominated the Bears. The Bears actually moved the ball. They had a couple drives where their drive stalled. So I don't just necessarily think that you can write those two games off as wins. If I was a betting man, I wouldn't just write those two games off as a win. I think that the Lions will win on Thursday because it's a short week and they're playing at home. But I think you should definitely circle that last game of the season where you have the Lions maybe trying to wrap up the NFC, and you have the Bears where they might be trying to play for their coach, play for Eberflus, play for the GM, play for the coaches in the building, and they might come out and still play hard. So definitely circle that last game where they play in Chicago.
No doubt. All right, moving on. Man, the Bills finally make Kansas City no longer undefeated team. So the question is, let me just address the comment section. OG Slick, Steve said divisional games are always tough due to familiarity. Records mean nothing. Absolutely, I agree with that for sure. I definitely records don't mean anything when it comes to divisions. I know that because the Raiders have beaten the Chiefs in years that the Chiefs have gone to win the Super Bowl. So we know
last year.
Clearly, records don't mean anything when it comes to divisional games. So I agree with that. But the Bills officially knocked off, you know what I'm saying, the Chiefs last week. And so you gave them their first loss. So are the Bills the biggest threat to the Chiefs for the three-peat? I know there's a couple other teams out there in the AFC that people might have, you know, talked about, but what are y'all thoughts? We'll start with E this time.
I'm going to say no. I think it's always going to be, right now for me, it's going to be the Ravens, even with the Ravens losing 4 games. And the Bills, I believe the Bills have only lost 2 or 3 at this moment. I'm still going to go with the Ravens. I think the element that Lamar Jackson presents in the run game and in the passing game, it's just always going to be that X factor in a game like that. I just, with the Chiefs, what they've been able to do over the last couple years, he's on his third Super Bowl, knocking on the door for his fourth. It's always going to come down to, when the playoffs come, they're going to be ready. They're going to be locked in. They're going to, do the things that they need to do to, advance in the playoffs like they've always done. So I think to realistically beat Andy Reid and Mahomes, you have to have a dynamic offensive player. I think Josh Allen is a dynamic offensive player, but I don't think that he's Lamar Jackson. I think that what Lamar Jackson is able to do on offense, I think they pose the biggest threat to the Chiefs. Now, their secondary, the Ravens, they have some question marks there. They've kind of struggled a little bit, and they've given up a ton of yards, a couple of high scoring games due to some of the injuries in their secondary and some of the younger players that are playing. Eddie Jackson wasn't what they thought he was probably going to be when they signed him, but I still think when you add Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry, and the way their receivers have played this year, Bateman, Flowers, likely Mark Andrews is starting to round into form after his injury. I just think that it's always going to be the Ravens. If the Ravens are on 10, they're going to be a tough team to beat in the playoffs.
Interesting. I do want to shout out Steve. He said this is the team not enough people are talking about. So apparently he got some real talk or something to say. But Ant, man, how you feel about what he talking about? You think he making sense?
I wouldn't say the Ravens. The Ravens, it just seems like when they get to the playoffs, there's I don't think I've seen a team like that. It kind of remind me of the Clippers in basketball, where it just seemed like something bad happens and the team starts to panic a little bit. So I don't think the Ravens are really a threat to the Chiefs either. I actually think that the biggest threat to the Chiefs is the team that might not make the playoffs is the Bengals. It seems like the Bengals have a certain comfort level, especially offensively, being able to score on the Chiefs. But I honestly think that the Chiefs, the biggest obstacle that they're going to have is themselves. Can they, their secondary, can they tighten that up a little bit? Injuries, things of that nature. But to me, just hands down, I think that they're favored to win another Super Bowl. I don't think it's the Bills. I think the Bills, these games that they have in the regular season, when the Bills win one here or there, they just haven't beat them when the chips have been on the table. I think they played in the playoffs 3 times and they lost all 3. It's probably going to be a road game in Arrowhead, and those scenarios where until you truly get over the hump, you never really do it. I think it's going to come back. It kind of reminds me of like the Patriots with the Colts, and the Colts finally got over the heap and got over the Patriots that one year that they went to the Super Bowl. But if you remember that year, that was the year that they had Rashae Caldwell, the Patriots, and really a ragtag bunch of players that the Colts finally got over them. And the next year they get Randy Moss and, history after that. So I honestly think it's the Bengals. I don't know if the Bengals are going to make the playoffs, but any other team, I think the Chiefs have a level of comfort versus them. One thing that stands out of my mind when the Bills played the Chiefs and the Chiefs lost this game, when he was going off the field, Travis Kelce was kind of clapping like, okay, you guys did a good job. You got your little win, and I actually think it's probably a good thing that they finally do lose. You don't want to carry that undefeated streak. It's already enough to try to three-peat, but then put the undefeated on there. So I would say the biggest obstacle in front of the Chiefs is the Chiefs. Can they stay healthy? Their secondary is kind of young. They've given up some big plays lately, but I don't think anybody can beat them.
Yeah, I think let me acknowledge what Steve said in the comments. He said OG Slick said, I think it would be tough for the Chiefs to beat the Ravens twice in 1 year, especially with the lack of depth at wide receiver. So I definitely, for me, I see it as Baltimore is the biggest threat, to be honest. The Bills, to me, are they always do this in the regular season. They put up the points, they celebrate the win. Yeah, we beat the Chiefs. You don't want to see us when it comes playoff time, and then it comes playoff time and they smoke up the joint. You know what I'm saying? Every time. So that's the only reason why I don't say the Bills to beat the Chiefs. Now, I also will say that Lamar Jackson, and don't look too good in the playoffs either so far. You know what I'm saying? So I do want to bring that up that, L-Jack hasn't played that great when it comes to the playoffs, but Action Jackson got some backup this year at running back that has the potential to just change a game. You know what I'm saying? We seeing the way Saquon Barkley has been running all over and what he's been doing this year. And we also can't ignore what Derrick Henry has been doing this year as well, too. Because I want to say Saquon Barkley is barely over Derrick Henry in yards for the season. So I think they're like within 150 yards of each other. So
yeah, I think it was close until Saquon bust that 250.
That's okay.
On
So then
Sunday
maybe
night. So yeah, he
within
ran for
200 or so.
250. So
Yeah.
Yeah. Just a quick.
Actually, yeah, they're actually 70 yards apart from each other.
That's what I thought it was within 100. Yeah, within 100 yards.
Yeah,
only 70. I don't know if the bye weeks are the same, but only 70.
I just think that the way that the Ravens, what they can do, with their rushing attack between Lamar and now where you add the element of Derrick Henry, I just think that if the Ravens are in a game with the Chiefs and they can get a lead or they can get ahead of the game because of the way that they can run the ball and they can wear you down, I think that they can get control of the game against the Chiefs. And I think that's the hardest part about playing against the Chiefs is a team really being able to get control of the game. And I'll give just a quick example. I think that if you look back to their Super Bowl prior to, last year where they played the Eagles, prior to the 49ers where they played the Eagles were up 14-7 in that game, right? Before they had the, the blunder and they had the fumble where, Bolton takes it to the house. I think the problem with Philly where we struggled in that game was we could never really get control of the game. I don't think that Miles Sanders was the kind of back where you can run him, and he's going to wear a defense down. That's not his game. Miles Sanders is not that kind of player where you talk about Derrick Henry. We've seen Derrick Henry do it for the Titans on multiple occasions. He can wear a defense down. So I just think that if the Ravens are able to get a lead, if they're able to get ahead of the game, I just think that they can do so much with their rushing attack that they could wear the Chiefs down, and they could still do a lot in play action pass with Likely, Flowers, and Bateman and all the guys that they have.
The one thing I will say before we get off of this is that Derrick Henry's 30 and he's had a couple of injury plague seasons in the past, and right now he's already at 221 carries. On a pace to get almost 300. So they do also need to think about maybe conserving him a bit because, you don't want him to get worn down or, knock on wood, get hurt before the playoffs. So that's something to think about as well, is that, we're talking about this Derrick Henry, Lamar Jackson two-head monster, but, they're really pushing to get maybe possibly that number one seed or at the very least win their division. But they are running this guy a lot that's 30 years old. And we know that around that 28, 29 age, that's the danger zone for running back. So just something to think about.
Can y'all hear me? Because I know my internet's a little shaky right now. Can y'all hear me?
No, we can hear you.
Okay. Man, to be honest, I feel like they haven't been running Derrick Henry that much. Like I've been watching a couple of their games, and there's been times where he's only gotten like 14 carries, 16 carries, as opposed to like 25 to 30 that I was hoping they was going to get. So my question is, when it comes to Baltimore, is like, are you going to use Derrick Henry the way to run his down their throats? That's my question, because I think if they're going to try to make Lamar Jackson just be a pocket passer, that's the struggle. And I feel like that's the games that they've struggled in and that they lost. They weren't really giving Derrick Henry a lot of the carries. But I could be wrong. I only watched a couple of the games this year, but the ones that I've seen and the ones that they've been struggling, they haven't really been giving Derrick Henry the ball. They've been splitting his carries, you know what I'm saying, and giving him maybe 13, 14. So I think in my opinion, if they have a real shot at it, it's when they're giving him 20, 23, 25 carries and not making, Lamar Jackson just sit back and be a pocket passer.
Yeah, no, that's a great point.
Yeah, no, that is a great point. I think, Ant was kind of just saying more so like just to conserve him so that he's ready to go when that time comes, just because of his age and his injury history. He's kind of getting how many carries did you say he has on the season at?
He has 221. And we
So
still
he's
got
close.
he's
6
gonna be
games,
over.
so
300.
So they just have to kind of maybe monitor how many carries he's getting over this stretch. But it's going to be interesting to see. I think in the AFC that there's a couple teams knocking on the door, but we'll see what happens. But I'm still going to go with the Ravens in the AFC to give them the biggest threat.
No doubt. All right, moving forward. NBA updates, man. I'll let y'all talk about which teams that y'all want to update.
Can I get on my soapbox here?
Talk.
Ant, you ready?
We'll go.
I just think that it was a shame that the Cavs started off 15-0, and they had their regular season matchup with the Celtics, and you see talking heads on TV saying how they don't think that the Celtics without Porzingis are ready to play against the Cleveland Cavaliers, and how the Cleveland Cavaliers have done so much. Again, when does the disrespect stop? When
nobody loves me.
When does it stop? I'm just very confused about this. It just doesn't make any sense. I'm just confused. Don't get me wrong. Cleveland has had one of its best starts in franchise history, right? That is something that we can congratulate and say, good for them, right? It's time for the city, the Cavaliers to move on without LeBron, the LeBron era, to be able to realistically turn the page and say, hey, all right, we're a reputable organization and we can win without LeBron. But let's be real here. The Cleveland Cavaliers cannot beat the Boston Celtics in a 7-game series. Currently constructed, they can't beat them. So I just was a little hurt, and I was a little confused as to why, talking heads on TV are saying that Boston is going to have trouble and Boston may not be ready for this Cleveland team under Kenny Atkinson. And it just the disrespect never stops. And I just don't know what this team has to do to earn or garner the respect around the league that they deserve. It's just a shame. It's very hurtful, and it's disappointing. After everything that they've done, they still come out with a hard start. Even with the injury to Porzingis, they still look like the team to beat, and they just still can't get the respect that they deserve. And I'm just confused as to why.
Well, the reason why is because you guys didn't really play anybody in the playoffs. That's what they're going to say. They're going to say you didn't play, of all the teams that they stacked, saying that these are going to be the teams that the Celtics are going to have to go through. They didn't really have to go through Denver. They didn't go through the Bucks, or they didn't go through the Sixers. So that's the reason that they're going to give, which I think is not fair, because, I don't think Jokic season before went through anybody. But that's what they're going to say. I mean, the NBA season is long, so people need something to talk about. They're not going to just,
But why does it have to be about the boss? Why does it have to be about the team that won the championship? I just don't understand. Why can't the proper amount of respect be dished out for the defending champions? Right.
Well, and another thing with the Celtics is they don't have a player that people revere like that. They don't have a LeBron,
and that's a shame.
They don't have an Embiid.
And that's a shame, because
I have to disagree with you. No, I have to disagree with you.
That's a shame, because
Tatum, and they fear Jason Tatum, bro.
No, forget about the players. I'm talking about the media. If you do a media poll about the top,
Jaylen Brown.
Jaylen Brown's
the media
a great player.
No parts of Jaylen Brown.
No. What I'm saying is, if you do a media poll of the top 7 players in the league, there's going to be media members, reputable media members, that have Jason Tatum like 7th, or maybe not even in their top 7. So part of it is they feel that you didn't play anybody, and then when they look at your best player, you don't have one of those guys that really, in their opinion, is one of those guys. So I think those two things get weighed together. So yeah, I mean,
let me ask you a question, right?
Okay.
And this goes back to the disrespect. you named a bunch of players, and one of those players that you named was Joel Embiid. I want to understand, and I want to see your perspective on how media members can rank Joel Embiid higher than Jason Tatum when Jason Tatum has had much more success in the playoffs than Joel Embiid has ever had. I don't get
success
that.
in the playoffs is a very interesting metric, and I think that's actually one of the things that's ruining the NBA, and that's another rant for another day. But if you just want to talk about the playoffs, Jason Tatum, I would think you would agree that he has had better teams than Joel Embiid. That's one. And I think two, and the most important thing to me about success in the playoffs with Joel Embiid, when we talk about him particularly, show me the season that he hasn't been injured in. So, the best ability is availability. And if you want to tell me, hey, Jason Tatum is an Iron Man, he plays all the time, he's never had a serious injury, he shows up for these games, I won't fight with you. But we have to, if we're going to tell the story, we got to tell it the whole way. And the guy's been hurt, right?
And I won't disagree with that. But at the same time, you're talking about a player who came in his first year was Game 7 Eastern Conference Finals with LeBron. First year, right off the back. First year, right off the back. Has made it to the Eastern Conference Finals multiple times in his career, has made it to the finals twice, has been an All-NBA player, been an All-Star. So I'm just and it's not a comparison with Joel Embiid. My question is more so, what does he have to do to make it to that level? Because obviously
he has to have, for in their eyes, I'm guessing he's going to have a regular season. Well, regular season, he's probably never going to win an MVP because the team is too stacked. But in the postseason, he has to play against the top teams, the people, and he has to dominate in those games. It doesn't help your case when Jaylen Brown wins the Finals MVP. It doesn't help your case.
But understandable. Real quick,
I have to disagree.
Go ahead.
Okay?
Go ahead.
I'm actually have to take E's side on this. I've been sitting back watching the conversation as well too on the Cavs, and it's been crazy. All right, it's crazy, and I'm not even gonna lie that the people have definitely disrespected the Celtics. My thing is the Celtics have the second best record in the East, and they just got Porzingis back like yesterday. So I think and Jaylen Brown was in and out of the lineup as well too. So I agree that the Celtics disrespect has been real. There's no way anybody should be saying that the Cleveland Cavaliers, regardless of what the record is, because right now the Cavs only got the East Conference right now only got 3 teams over 500 right now. So the fact that the Cavs have been dominating the East, wow. Congratulations.
I'm gonna tell you what a wise man once told me, and I'm gonna keep it PG-13. Show me the beautiful woman, and I'll show you the guy who's tired of messing with her. I say that to say the Celtics have been around in the conversation for a long period of time. The Cavaliers are a new team. Remember, they have Kenny Atkinson. He's a media darling. People love Kenny Atkinson.
Nation, baby. Dub Nation.
Dub Nation. You know from Dubs Nation. People love Kenny Atkinson. The media was furious when KD and them got him ran out of Brooklyn. They love Kenny Atkinson. So you're dealing with a new team with a new coach who's a media darling, and you're dealing with a Celtics team who's been in the psyche, like Eric was talking about, back when LeBron was on the Cavaliers. So part of it is the new car smell. Part of it, bruh, is it's not even Christmas time yet. They got to talk about something.
But I just want to go back to your point real quick. Is you said that the media would feel like they didn't play the top tier competition due to injuries. But again, show me what season. What season is there not like that, right? I can go back to a media darling when a specific player won the championship, when the 2021 Bucks won the championship and beat the Suns, right? What team wasn't hurt? I mean, the Lakers would like to have the Lakers would like to have a conversation with everyone and say, hey, Anthony Davis came out and said, we felt like we left one on the table that year. We didn't think anybody could beat us if I was healthy, if LeBron was healthy. The Brooklyn Nets, Kyrie Irving and James Harden both got hurt in that series. They weren't 100%. True. Trae Young was not 100% in the Eastern Conference Finals.
That's true.
When they played the Hawks, right? Chris Paul was not 100%, had a shoulder injury when he played in the finals. So what team? But no one went around saying, oh, Giannis didn't play anyone. Giannis was given that respect, and he was ascended to the top of the league as the best player. That's what people
remember, you have to understand that he had already won the MVPs and the Defensive Players of the Year. So the last thing, quote unquote, on his resume was to actually win it. They have questions about these players as players. That's the issue. They have a question about Jaylen Brown as a player, and
but the thing that
Eric, let me throw this in there. Part of it is we talk about media darlings. Jaylen Brown is the complete opposite. They don't like him.
Right? You're right. But at the same time, this is my problem because it's very contradicting. It's very contradicting, not necessarily coming from you, but coming from the media, right? The media will say, okay, well, Giannis, the only thing he had left to add was a championship. But this is the same player who, if you go back and you look at Giannis's track history in the playoffs, he didn't have a lot of playoff success in the playoffs. He was bounced in the second round by the Miami Heat. He was bounced in the first round by the Boston Celtics. He was bounced in the second round by the Boston Celtics in 1 year. So it's not like he was running around having a lot of success. Prior to him getting to the finals, he had only been in the Eastern Conference Finals one time, and he lost to the Toronto Raptors. So when you start to talk about a person like Jason Tatum, all I'm going to say is that Jason Tatum doesn't have the usage rate that Giannis does. We both know that. He's not being used on the court as much as you are, obviously because of the way the team is built. But I just think that to get punished for having the amount of success that Jason Tatum has had over the course of his career is crazy. That's what you guys are essentially doing. You guys are punishing him for being successful. And I just don't think that is right, and I don't think that is fair.
I think that LeBron, and this is a larger conversation and probably one for another day. LeBron recently said that he's getting off of social media and that he wishes the media were better and they covered things in different ways. And, I mentioned this earlier. I think that the NBA has a lot of problems, but I think the number one problem that the NBA has is NBA media. I think Stephen A. Smith, Bill Simmons, Jackie McMullen, Ryan Russillo, the list goes on and on. There's some great guys. I actually think Brian Windhorst is great. Zach Lowe is great. But the vast majority of these guys are really bad. Even Charles Barkley, I think, are bad for the game as a whole. They're very toxic in the sense that they have one-on-one rivalries with players. They have obvious bias towards certain players and hate towards other players. You don't see the NFL media covering it this way. And I think that it's one of the number one, and and people don't look at it that way, but just in my personal opinion, I think the NBA media as a whole has been a negative to the NBA and has hurt their growth. How nasty and caustic they are to the players. Again, like I said, the one-on-one, like Stephen A. Smith and Kevin Durant, active back and forth. You wouldn't dream to see someone talking about Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen the way that these guys are talking about KD, or the way Bill Simmons talks about LeBron. Like it's very nasty. And I think that's just spilled over into almost everything, to where the coverage is so biased because these guys clearly have people that they're rooting for. Stephen A. Smith, you can't tell him he's not in the league. Stephen A. Smith, if he was honest, he would probably tell you he's a top 10 player. He thinks he's as important to the league as Kevin Durant is. You can't tell Stephen A. that anything different. You can't tell Bill Simmons anything different. I think that just sows down to where the conversation isn't, because we don't have these type of conversations in the NFL. The NFL players are respected regardless. You wouldn't see someone say, "Hey, even though Josh Allen hasn't won a title, he's not a top 5 quarterback because he hasn't won a title." No one's going to say that in the NFL. But because the NBA media, and this is a longer form rant, but I think that they're really one of the biggest problem in the NBA. I think anything that affects the NBA, almost everything that a fan would complain about, I think the NBA media has a direct hand in causing. So
Yeah, I like I said, for me, I don't know what else he has to do to get the proper respect that he deserves, and for the team to get the proper respect that they deserve. And I definitely agree with you about your take on the media. It's just, this team has had so much success. Like, if you just really think about it, besides the year think about this. Think about how long Jason Tatum has been in the league. There's only 2 years out of his career, out of the whole career that he's played, there's only 2 years that he has not been in the Eastern Conference Finals. Think about that, Ant. Only
yeah.
2 years out of his whole time in the league, he's not been in the Eastern Conference Finals. He has been in the Eastern Conference Finals every year besides 2 years. The second year where Kyrie Irving comes back from injury, Gordon Hayward comes back, they get bounced in the second round in 5 games to the Bucks. In 2021, Jaylen Brown has a wrist injury. That's Kemba Walker's last year with the team. They lose in the first round in 5 games to the Nets. Every other year, he's either been in the Eastern Conference Finals or the NBA Finals. And it's just sad to see that he can't get his proper respect. The team can't get their proper respect when they've had so much success in the league.
I mean, I agree. I think it's a shame. I mean, these are young dudes, young people that have, dedicated a lot of time, effort, and finally reached the pinnacle. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like honestly have about to do a back-to-back, in my opinion. I basically, from what I can see, the way they're playing, I definitely see the Celtics going back-to-back and winning again this year. I don't see Cleveland as a team that's going to seriously challenge them right now in the Eastern Conference. I thought, New York was going to be the team. They look like they can barely even hold water right now. Philly looking like they might not even play, you know what I'm saying, in the playoffs. They might not even make it based on, what's been going on with the injuries. I know Maxey came back and PG and Embiid barely even playing together. So who knows how it's going to work. But at the end of the day, I do agree that, the Celtics disrespect has been crazy. And I think it's a shame because I feel like they're trying to write these people off when these people haven't even reached 30 yet. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Like, they haven't reached 30 yet, so they still got a long ways to go when it comes to, success in the future. So I do agree. I do agree, and yeah, they got to fix that.
I definitely agree with that. It's a interesting time in the NBA, interesting time, and I think a lot of it's being covered up because the NFL and college football is going on. But I think structurally, the NFL has a lot of problems. The NBA has a lot of problems. I talked about the media, but with other things, and hopefully they address it sooner than later because I love the game.
No doubt. All right, lastly, high highs and low lows, man. What's been going on with y'all? Anything y'all want to address or shout out or bring up in regards to the high highs and low lows that's going on? Let's start with you, Ant.
There's going to be a double segment, high highs and low lows. I was thinking about this the other day, and I did some research on it, and I was right. The Bears, which we talked about a lot in the first segment, recently got rid of their offensive coordinator, Shane Waldron, and they went to Thomas Brown. And I started to think about it. Thomas Brown is the only Black offensive play caller in the NFL. There's not another Black offensive play caller in the whole NFL. And this is very important because if you look at the NFL right now, the guys who are getting jobs are the offensive coordinators, right? If you have a young quarterback, you want a offensive coordinator to be his head coach because you know that the offense is going to stay the same. It's not going to be we have a good year, 1 year, and our offensive coordinator leaves, and then we have to find a new guy and mess up the continuity. It's important for that reason, but it's also important because of the coaching trees. If you look at it, the guys who get extensive coaching trees, who get coordinators hired all the time, are the offensive play calling head coaches. We think about Sean McVay. We think about Shanahan. We go back, Andy Reid. So obviously, shout out to Thomas Brown. The team has looked a lot better offensively the last 2 weeks with him as the head offensive play caller. Hopefully this becomes a permanent position with him, but who knows, because the head coach is on a high seat and he might get fired. But just in the grand scheme of things, for there to be one offensive head caller play coach, one, is a damn shame. And before it was the quarterbacks weren't smart enough. The black quarterbacks weren't smart enough to handle the position and be NFL starters. And if you're looking at this situation, and it really got into my mind with John Gruden when it was pointed out to me that he never in his career has had a black coordinator. So sometimes they're doing it right in your face, and no one's really talking about it, and it's a great season, and no one wants to bring the racial issues into it, but to have one black offensive play caller who wasn't even the play caller to start the season, he only got there because Shane Waldron got fired. I mean, it's very alarming. It's very disappointing, and I think it hurts black head coaches going down the pipeline because, again, the offensive coordinators are the ones that are highly sought after. Ben Johnson's going to be a big name this year too, and offensive coordinators, offensive head coaches are the ones that can have the extensive coaching trees. So that's my high and low lows.
My high is going to be the running backs in the NFL. It looks like this year the art of the running back is back. You see some of these running backs who signed with different teams in free agency: Aaron Jones, Josh Jacobs, Derrick Henry, Saquon Barkley. These guys are showing their value to the league. You even look at a guy like Jordan Mason out of San Francisco. He had that success when Christian McCaffrey was out. So you just see that the running back position is starting to come back, and it's starting to make its way back to relevancy and importance in the NFL. So that's definitely my high. And I really don't have any lows. I'm just going to piggyback on what you said. That's just a shame. It's funny because I didn't realize that. I didn't even notice that. I'm going to go take a deeper dive into that as I go look at the teams later. But that's a shame. So that's going to be my low.
Yeah, man, I appreciate, you bringing that to light, and because I had no idea, what I'm saying, like sitting back thinking about it. I mean,
yeah,
like, because I'm thinking of like all the coordinators I know, even like people like Brian Flores, like these are defensive coordinators,
these are
not
defensive
offensive
guys.
play
Mm-hmm.
callers. You know what I'm
And
saying?
remember,
So
in offense, that's where the genius. He's an offensive genius. That's where that comes from.
That's crazy, man. That's crazy. So yeah, I don't even have any high highs right now or any low lows. I think we should just let's end on that, man. I appreciate everybody that took time to join. Appreciate you for being on, and shout out to E as well too. My bad, I had some connectivity issues, but what I'm saying, it's all good. We got through it. We appreciate y'all and looking forward to next week.
All right, man.
All right, y'all. Peace.